All right, we'll call the meeting to order. We will start with open for, well, I should start. Kathleen and Jackie are not here today, absent for this meeting. Open forum, nobody here, no emails. Proposed assessment increase. Vote.
In your board packet, you will see the proposed increase. The board has talked about this all the way back to November of last year, and then they talked about it briefly at last month's regular board meeting. And the need for an assessment increase, it's coming on about 3 years now. And what we're proposing, management and the board are proposing, is $5 for improved and $1 for unimproved properties. If approved, these increases would go into effect March 1st of 2026. I've included in here a calendar indicating when the vote would commence, which would be June 23rd of this year. And the vote would end on August 19th and then go into effect March 1st. One question that came up at the GM meeting, why are we doing this so early? We'd like to know the answer before the budget. So we might as well just get it over with. The need, we talked about that that inflation is hitting everybody, including the POA. Social Security benefits have increased over the last 3 years by 15%, and this increase is for improved properties is 12.5%. Consistent with what we did in 2023 is the board would make a 3-year commitment to keep all our amenity usage fees the same for 3 additional years, which would give us an impressive 9 years in a row where amenity usage fees had not changed. On the flip side, unfortunately, if the assessment increase is not approved, we're going to have to increase some of our amenity usage fees. For example, our annual golf memberships, we're proposing that it would go up $150 a year. The secondary golf membership would go up $100. Pay as you play green fees would go up by $7. These are all for activity card holders. Range balls would go up from $0 with an activity card to $1 with an activity card. Same thing for beach, pool, fitness, $1 per visit with an activity card. Boat registrations up by 75, boat slip rentals up by 150. So, you know, a lot of increases, and I have included an analysis in here that shows the current rates, the proposed rates. We fully recognize that if we have an increase, we'll probably have some level of attrition or reduction in usage. Which would be unfortunate. We've been conservative in our estimates, and you'll see that the amount of additional revenue brought in from the increase in the amenity usage fees brings in about the exact same amount as the assessment increase would bring in. We plan on having informational meetings, 3 of them that are going to be open to the community. BVRC on June 2nd at 4 p.m., Branchwood on the June 16th at 10 a.m., and Metfield on June 18th at 4 p.m. In addition to that, Jessica has been contacting various groups and clubs and associations, and I think she has me booked for about 20 plus so far. So trying to get the word out. And then we've provided a suggested motion, a little bit longer motion than you're used to, but we want to make sure it's 100% accurate. Any questions?
I just would like us to this is not a defense thing, it's more informational, what we really want the community to know. Could you talk a little bit more about the 5 and the 1? Just expand on what you've already said. Why did we decide on 5, and why is 5 suggested? And I think a lot of people are going to be happy that we're now including the unimproved lots.
So, first of all, we wanted to, going back in time, we had a period of almost 20 years where we didn't have an assessment increase, and so that necessitated a $13 increase in assessments. And we want to avoid that. So in 2023, we did the 3 for 3, meaning we would keep the amenity usage fees the same for 3 years for a $3 increase. And we had said at that time that we would want to continue to do increases every 3 years and try and keep them reasonable. Yeah, I'd love to have it less than 5, but once again, inflation is hitting us as much as it is hitting everybody. When you go to the store and buy
Eggs,
everything, it's gone up. So it's impacting us. The board had made the commitment in 2023 that we would ask for an increase for unimproved property owners. The $1 isn't a huge amount. It's going to be a struggle to get that approved. But also keep in mind, it's going to be a struggle to get that approved simply because the vast majority of unimproved property owners live out of state.
still?
Still, if you look at unimproved activity card owners, okay, so that live within a 1 hour drive time, it's like 14% of all unimproved. So it's very low. Everybody knows, has the buddy that lives in Bentonville, has an activity card and has an unimproved property. Totally understand that. It only makes up 14%. So that means 86% of our unimproved property owners rarely come to Bella Vista, rarely use our amenities. So it's a hard sell for them, hard justification to ask for a large increase. That's why.
So one other thing, what will you say, because I know you'll have the answer, and I just want everybody to know. What if somebody says to you in one of the meetings or on the street or whenever they see you, it's like, well, you got all these new people moving in, you probably don't need any more money.
Well, and that's a good question, and that actually allows us to artificially keep our fees lower, our assessments lower. Inflation has hit us hard, and we actually need more than the $5. The very next report we're going to talk about is the non-performing lots, which we've been able to get many more lots paying their assessments. If it weren't for those efforts to bring in the same amount of money, we'd need a $16 increase on improved properties instead of a $5 increase. So the influx of people moving in and the efforts to get more people to pay is helping us out tremendously, but it can't get down to zero.
Exactly.
It's helping us keep it so it's reasonable. 16 would be really hard for the community to stomach, but that's what we would need if it wasn't for our efforts and the growth.
Well, don't get me wrong, I'm for this. I see the need. I'm all about it. I just would like us, starting now, to start anticipating some of those questions that are going to come up and have an answer for all of us.
We plan on putting together an FAQ that'll be on our website. We're actually ironing that out and making sure that I don't have any grammar mistakes and so forth. So we're going to have that.
Use AI, you'll be okay. I'm
sorry.
I would like, you kind of stole my thunder with something I was wanting to say, was the rate of it. We're talking about a 12.5% increase. Whenever you look over the last 3 years, what inflation has done, everything is 30% to 50% up in cost. And so what everybody thinks about labor, any of our materials or supplies that go into maintaining golf courses, everything is so much more expensive. So I think asking for a 12.5% is a very, very reasonable and modest request.
There's another way to look at that, people moving in, increasing our numbers. That increases the demand on our amenities and makes maintaining them more expensive, more difficult. We have to provide more amenities. So
And look at,
it's a double-edged sword.
look at all we've accomplished over the last 3 years. I mean, so I handed out this brochure, and this is going to be my talking piece for when I give speeches. It's draft on it, so I encourage you to scour over it. If you notice any errors, I'm sure it was Jessica's fault. But kidding. But please review it. But going back, look at all that we've accomplished in the last 3 years in large projects. Tandon Creek Practice Center just opened, gun range just opened, BVRC and new fitness equipment, Kingsdale Clubhouse and BV65. We've added pickleball courts, the fish production ponds, the treehouse playground and park, and Highlands new fairways, which are underway. So we've accomplished in just a 3-year period a tremendous amount, and we want to keep going. And so that doesn't come without a cost.
And, just to expand a little bit on what David said too about the, all these people moving in, I've heard you say before, because you tend to try to plan ahead of the growth, that it won't be long before we will need to add extra amenities or things to accommodate all the new people coming in.
Metfield is the best example. The Metfield Fitness Center is currently not meeting the needs of our membership. Unfortunately, that's going to only get worse with more people moving in, and it's not going to be an easy fix. It's not going to be a cheap fix. It's going to be an addition to the building. So that's a really good example of, we need to be prepared to continue to add more. We need more pickleball courts. We need more this, more that. We need more of just about everything because we're getting so much larger.
Anybody else?
Thank you. Outstanding. And all this information, the board packet is available online. So if you're watching at home, you're more than welcome to take a look at it and get more information as we go along. The second item is, we do this every year, is the non-performing lot analysis. So non-performing is people that are not paying their assessments or lots owned by the POA. It's less of an issue now because for this analysis, the POA only owns 47. Well, actually less than now because we had a successful online auction. But back in the day, the POA owned 700 lots, so that was a tremendous number of lots that were not paying. So that's why we include them in non-performing, because you're not going to pay yourself. That's an accounting waste of time. So non-performing lots, and we date it back to December 31st of 15. And back then, we didn't even have a collection team, and now we do. And you'll see that way back then, we had 20.6% non-performing. They were not paying. And last year it was 3.3%, and now we're down to 2.3%, which is just amazing. So we've gone from 8,000 non-performing down to 906, and we'll continue to push those down. But the low-hanging fruit was gone a couple years ago. It just gets harder and harder. These are the ones that, they're in bankruptcy and they're really complicated issues. These are not easy fixes, but we continue to work at them. As I indicated just a moment ago, Doug and his team had an online auction, and that was very successful. And then a month or so ago, they had a judicial auction. So all those efforts knocked that number down over, steadily pushing that number down and get of people, the number of people that are not paying. And a lot of these end up turning into people that do pay. So part of the analysis I've provided you is back in December 31st, 2015, we went from the number of improved properties from 13,449 to 16,649. Keep in mind that includes the assisted living Concordia and the other ones, up in Highlands. So those are not just homes, and so that's up by 3,000 in a relatively short amount of time, and I think that number is going to pick up the pace. So you'll see that it has a positive impact of 1.37 million, and then the number of lots that are now improved instead of unimproved, they're paying $24 more. And so that is an additional $920,000. So once again, all that allows us to keep the increase really quite reasonable. $5 over a 3-year period. And I don't think your cell phone company asks you your opinion when they increase, they just increase it, So any questions on that? We do this report at the same time every year based upon, because we know members in good standing as of March 31st, and our team, the database team, and Roxy and all those guys, they do an outstanding job to make sure that we're as clean as possible so everybody, as many people as possible, can participate in the election for the board. So that's why we picked that date, is because we know that as many people as possible the files have been updated and so forth. So it's April 1st every year, and so I continue to be impressed and very proud of the efforts of accounting, of legal, of database, of everybody that participates in pushing that number down.
I'd like to make a quick point also. We're talking about keeping our amenity fees the same. I think it's very important that even in the face of all this inflation and pressures that have been put on, and by no fault of our own, maintain the promise that 3 for 3. Mm-hmm. We did not touch the rates over years, and so I think the community can trust that will continue to be the case when we're promising it now.
Yeah, that question came up back in 2020 when the board made the commitment to keep the fees the same for 3 years, and people were back in 2020 were like, how can we trust the board? Well, we're now 6 years in to that commitment, and the board has fulfilled that. So, if approved and we're able to keep our amenity usage fees the same for 3 more years, that means let's pick on the golfers. Our golfers will be paying the exact same fees for 9 straight years. Tell me a golf course where you can say the same.
I like those words, maintain the promise. I like that a lot. I don't know, was it in here or it came out of your mouth? I like it.
There was an insult in there
somewhere.
No,
Slightly veiled.
No, I like it a lot. I think those are great words. I do.
On the non-performing lots, 2 things. One, we say it every time this year, but kudos to you and the team, and Beth and you and your team. But one thing that is interesting to me as we go through these last few years I've been on the board is what the industry standard is compared to where we are as far as non-performing lots.
The last time I checked, Hot Springs Village, which is a good, decent comparison to us, not exactly, they were at like 30%,
And we're
2.3. So, different environment, different situation, different, you know,
not completely apples to apples, but darn close.
yeah, no, we are well below the industry standard. I would say probably other well, there's not a lot of but other communities, I think they'd be happy if they were at 15%, but we're at 2.3.
It's awesome.
And it wasn't more than a couple years ago, I told Doug, I said, I don't think we can get any lower. I mean, you can't get to zero. You can strive for zero, but you can't get to zero.
Took you on a challenge.
Yeah, and we had that same conversation last year, and we were at 3.3, and now we're at 2.3. Holy cow! But it's also, keep in mind it's tied to the economy. If the economy, God forbid, we go into a recession or something like that, that number will probably go up. Because we do have, our collections people talk to people that say, I can't pay it because I lost my job. That happens. And we work with them, we try and put them on a payment plan and so forth. So that number is impacted by the greater economy.
That number also, due to the decisions of the board and management in the last 10 years that have made Bella Vista a much more attractive place to be, and that's being recognized by people wanting to buy property in Bella Vista and then maintain their eligibility to participate by paying their fees. So, it's the actions of the board and the management that have helped this also. I mean, that's not to be dismissed. It's just Bella Vista's going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Anything else?
The next item is the annual audit. The audit committee met on Tuesday, and met with our auditor, and he did a presentation. Very pleased to congratulate Beth and her team on another clean audit. No adjustments, well done. Healthy company, and so the audit committee, after the presentation, voted to recommend to the board of directors to approve the annual audit. We've included for you a draft version. It is a draft until the board approves it. Once the board approves it, it's no longer a draft. And so I encourage you, we just, Jessica sent you a revised packet just yesterday, but that's when we got it. So we put it in as quickly as we could, and so please take the time to read through it. If you are having any insomnia, you can read it on your nightstand, and it'll put you to sleep.
Hey, Tom, I have one question, and I'm sorry I didn't think of it on Tuesday, but under this other matters issue, it just seems to me that we're getting...
What note are you on?
I'm on the second page. It's the auditor's notes.
Yeah, that's the one I brought up the other day.
Yeah, and this is the question that I thought of as I was reading it, drifting off to sleep. My question is, if MAC knows what projects need to be done in the near future and they can give us a reasonable estimate of what those items are, why not include that in the audit to give a more complete picture?
I think it would be a larger undertaking than that, because you need to make sure you get every asset covered. So, we talk about, we updated our insurance, and we have 150 structures. I think it's closer to 200 structures. That includes buildings, but it also includes smaller storage units. You would have to track every single one of those and determine where they're at. Pools,
But this is talking about major repairs, so it'd have to be something that's pretty blatant.
it has to be very detailed. We can look into it, but my experience is it is a significant undertaking.
I would have a comment to that thought too. Whenever you look at every piece of property, like you said, if you're gonna put it in an audit, it needs to be accurate, which I think everybody would agree with
It
that.
has to be accurate.
And so, right, and so you're opening yourself up to some potential liability of why wasn't this project put into the audit if something got missed. So then you're gonna take up a lot of extra man hours of just somebody going around and inspecting and then creating estimates of what those are gonna cost. And then we look at Mac's already spread thin anyway. They're behind because we've had them working on the gun range. So you just try to look at the big picture. I understand where Sandy's coming from. If you could potentially do that, but I just think there'd be extra cost and potential liability if something was missed.
You know, that line bothered me too. I guess I'm curious as to why the Financial Accounting Standards Board even puts that in there. Or is it something that applies to a lot of other places but not us?
Well, I don't think it's bad information. It's just expensive to get. So let me go back to what our auditor said was, he's not concerned.
Right.
That we don't have that, so, and bringing out a professional reserve analysis company to do the work is gonna cost us $60,000-$80,000. The biggest issue that I have with bringing in a professional company is they tend to use national averages and not necessarily regional averages or local averages. We know, everybody knows what's going on with the new home office and, how much concrete and paving costs these days. My concern is that the analysis will not be as accurate as it needs to be, and then it becomes pointless, and then you're spending yeah. We know this is, our MAC department does a really good job maintaining our facilities. We've done a really good job over the last decade of going through and renovating our facilities and upgrading them, which is part of the whole reserve analysis, is to make sure that you're putting the money back into the facility. So we can do the analysis if the board wants to. We can go get a cost on how much it would be to have a professional company come in here, and we can get you the information on how much, what would entail if we did it in-house. We can do both of those. I do have a feeling we're gonna come back to the same result. Is it's a really expensive task. The auditors are indifferent about it, and we're accomplishing the overall mission of maintaining our facilities.
I would, by definition, an audit is an opinion on past performance. So the fact that the auditor here doesn't really get too excited about future, and to Jeff's point, that you can't predict what it's going to be, and it needs to be accurate to be in the audit. So I'm not concerned that it's not there, and I don't think it should be, because it can't be accurate. We know it won't be.
I wouldn't say the way this is worded that they're not concerned. So I wouldn't say that, but if we have chosen not to include it, so be it, but.
I would like to just say that the auditors are not concerned at all. I would say it's very common that this is left out and omitted. It's very common that you see in the report letter, this notation. It's common for entities not to go through the expense to do it. The auditors asked if we'd done it. I said no. That was the end of the discussion. They were not concerned at all. And in the, you need to keep in mind, it is just an estimate. And anybody who's remodeled a home or remodeled anything knows how those estimates change. If you think back at the Highlands project that we had, where we had to go in and work on the plumbing, and then we had to, when we got into it, we had to work on the electrical, and the project ballooned, because that's just what happens when you go in and start fixing things in buildings and such. You can't control what costs do. If you built a house or something, you know that you may go under contract of a house now, and 6 months from now that lumber's doubled, and there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to keep in mind it's an estimate, and how much is that estimate really worth? How accurate is it? What is it really telling you? And what benefit do we have to go through that expense of coming up with that estimate? If you look at it from a cost-benefit perspective and the concern as far as do we have enough funds to keep the amenities going, that's the main thing. It's kind of a going concern question. We have no going concern issues. So it just doesn't seem like there's a cost benefit for that. The auditors are concerned, and I don't see it as a concern for the members to feel like they need to know that we have the funds available to keep our amenities up, which is really the reason for that.
And I totally get that, and I understand it, that the way that's worded. Is there any way that could be toned down a bit?
And it's.
Or is that standard wording that has to go in
Standard
there?
CYA wording.
Okay, you're right, but I'm just saying, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
Thanks, Beth. Anything else on the audit? Okay. Policies under review, both are second readings, so these ought to go lickety-split.
I wasn't gonna, this is the third go-round, I mean, between the Rules and Regulations Committee of last month and the work session and the regular meeting from last month. So we can talk about these if you want. We haven't touched them since then, and they're up for, as in Jason indicated, up for the second and final reading this month.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just for people that watch every once in a while or tune in every once in a while, it's policy 1.01, member access to association information, and policy 1.04, joint advisory committee. So you can go in and look at that. It's on the website.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to the end of our agenda. Anybody have anything else? No?
Reminding everybody, you should be getting your ballots.
Check your spam
Outstanding.
mail.
Check your spam. Be patient. Sometimes if you're waiting for the ballot to appear in your mailbox, we have no control over that. It'll arrive when it arrives. It was mailed on Monday, so if your neighbor gets it before you do, just give us a couple days. Do your research. There's a lot of information on our website. Make an informed decision, but most importantly, vote.
Good. All right, last thing's announcements. Board of Directors regular session is Thursday, April 24th at 6 p.m. here in the boardroom and live stream. Board of Directors GM meeting, this is a closed meeting. And note the change of the date, which is May 5th, this next go around at 2:30 here in the boardroom. Rec JAC meeting, May 12th at 4 here in the boardroom and live stream. Lakes JAC, May 14th at 2 p.m. here in the boardroom, live stream. And Golf JAC is May 14th at 4 in the boardroom and live stream. The next work session is Thursday, May 15th at 9. The annual meeting of member and election results is May 20th at 6 here in the boardroom, and then the Board of Directors regular session. Next regular session in May is May 27th at 6 at the boardroom and live stream. And like, one more questions, are we good? All right, meeting adjourned.